This video is going to give you what you need to know in order to be successful in the measurement lab that we'll be doing day 1 next week. In the measurement lab, the goal is to have you use lots of different types of equipment to practice the measurements that you'll be making throughout the year. The different kinds of equipment, of course, will be a good chance for you to review the names and the functions of these different equipment that'll be on the lab equipment quiz day 2. For the lab, you'll be in groups of 2. And unlike some labs, instead of being at one place, you'll actually be rotating around 11 different lab stations, looking at all these different items and looking at different pieces of equipment. Give you some ideas here. As far as making measurements, when it comes to length, we use this device right here. This is a zoomed-in picture of part of a meter stick. A meter stick is a meter long, and it's divided into 100 little chunks, which are called centimeters. Think of like cents of a dollar, right? 100 cents in a dollar. 100 centimeters in a meter. This is in the 40s, obviously, where we're zoomed in. And then you have these smaller lines. These smaller lines, you'll notice there's 10 of them for every centimeter. So they would be 1,000th of a meter. They are millimeters. So if I ask you for something in millimeters, I'm looking at these smaller lines. If I ask you for something in centimeters, I'm talking about these larger lines. So let's say you measure something and it goes to this line right here, in between 40 and 41. That would be 40 and a half, so 40.5 centimeters, or it would be 405 millimeters. Up next is using glassware to make volume measurements. This is a piece of glassware called a graduated cylinder that you'll be using a lot in the lab and in other labs. One kind of important thing you need to know whenever you're doing this is when you pour the liquid in, whether it's water or whatever, it will form this curved surface. You might remember the name of that. It's called a meniscus. From another class, you might remember that. You always measure to the bottom of the meniscus. So if you look at this here, you've got 20 and 25. That means that each of these are 1, so 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. So if you measure the top, you might think that this is 22 milliliters, but it's not. It's 21 and a half. 21 and a half, because you're measuring to the bottom, milliliters. Now milliliters, think about like a 2-liter bottle of soda. Think of half of that. Now you're down to 1 liter. And then milli, again, milli means 1,000th. So this is 21 and a half 1,000th of a liter. Another thing you want to keep in mind whenever you're making measurements, especially when you're looking at like a graduated cylinder, but this also works with a ruler or anything like that, a meter stick, is you want to make sure that you're right at eye level with what you're measuring. You're not above it, you're not below it, you're not to the left or right of it. And the reason why that is if you try to, let's say this is a graduated cylinder and you're looking at liquid, if you're looking at it from above or below, you're going to get the wrong measurement. You're going to actually read the piece of glassware incorrectly. You're going to introduce what's called parallax error. Kind of hard to explain. You have to sort of see it for yourself. So in the lab tomorrow, I want you to actually practice this. I want you to take the measurement like you should, and then I want you to actually do it incorrectly on purpose just to see that you would in fact get the wrong number. It's important for you to see it for yourself. You'll be in groups of 2 like I mentioned. At least one person in your group will have to have a calculator, and I would like it to be a calculator, not a phone. You'll be needing a calculator for a few of the stations. Last thing then, tomorrow I will just be kind of going over some specific safety concerns for some of the specific stations. Remember, all the stations will be different. But generally, kind of give you an idea, I always expect, of course, your best behavior. Any kind of goofing around is not okay in a lab. You could damage yourself, you could be damaging some equipment, or you could distract somebody else, and they might break some equipment or hurt themselves. So that's never going to be permissible in a lab. I expect that you're always on task. Also, of course, you need to be very careful with all the different pieces of equipment. Some of them are very expensive, so make sure that you're handling them carefully. If you're not sure how to use something, let me know, and I'll tell you how to use it safely. The last thing then is you'll be using different items. Everything from alligator heads to, there'll be a rattlesnake head. There'll be different kinds of starfish and seashells and all kinds of cool stuff that are actually not the school's items, but my own. And I do expect you to handle those carefully. I want you to handle them and pick them up and do all that kind of stuff, but please do it carefully because I would rather my items not be broken. So I hope you enjoy the lab tomorrow. I will see you there, and we'll get right into it.